everyone, my name's Emily and I'm here at the National Marine Aquarium where it is feeding time for our lovely octopuses. So we have 3 different types of octopus here at the aquarium, and while we're feeding them throughout this talk, I really just want to keep coming back to just thanking all of you for all of the donations that you've made so far to help support us, particularly now while we're closed, and we really do appreciate it. If you would like to donate, there is a link in the description. So, back to the octopuses. If you guys come in here with me, we're going to meet Charlie, one of our biologists, and she will be feeding our first octopus. So, hello Charlie.
Hi. Hi everyone.
So Charlie is one of our senior biologists here. So at the moment, we're behind the scenes in our Plymouth Sound exhibit where Noodles, our lovely little common octopus, lives. So Charlie, do you want to just let us know what you're going to do feeding-wise with her today?
Yeah, so I'm going to feed Noodle. We've got some lunch for her here. A couple of prawns and a little sprat as well. And because octopus are so intelligent, rather than give them a freebie or a takeaway, as I assume most of you are living on, we put them in little enrichment devices and toys. It gets them to think, interact with different objects, because due to that intelligence level, they really need some sort of mental stimulation and things. Fun fact for the day, actually, is the Octopus vulgaris, the common octopus, which is what Noodle is, was actually the first invertebrate to be covered under the Animals Act in 1986 in the UK, because of that level of intelligence that they do have. So yeah, I'm going to see if she's out and about. I'm going to wake up and come say hello.
Perfect, thanks Charlie. So because Noodles, if you want to just quickly come and have a look from the top of the tank, she is really quite small and she's quite shy, so it's actually quite difficult to see her feeding from above. So we're going to head around to the front of the exhibit where we'll be able to see her hopefully moving around and getting very excited by the toy that Charlie's prepared. So thank you Charlie. We'll just pop round to the front and good luck. Hopefully she comes out and plays with you.
Thank you.
Oh, so she's already come right up to the top of the tank there. So you can just see her in the back corner. So that's Charlie's hand that she's playing with. So one really important form of enrichment is actually sensory enrichment. So all of those suckers that they've got on their arms, they can kind of taste with those as well. So it's really important to give them lots of different things that they can taste, different textures they can feel as well. And it also helps to build a relationship with the biologists, because we actually all taste different, believe it or not. So letting them taste us kind of lets them get to know us. It helps them to recognise the people that she maybe likes a little bit more, some people that she maybe doesn't quite like as much. And it just really helps to build that relationship and help her to be a little bit more confident. So there she is, she's thinking about it. So as she's moving, really pay attention to how her arms move, the kind of shapes that they make, and the fact that it's really kind of fluid, really smooth motions. So she's putting her arms inside the box right now, so the food is right there in the middle. And so what she has to do is try and feel around in there, grab onto it with those suckers, and hopefully pull it out. So she is having a nice feel around for it. Like Charlie said, it's really good to give her, oh, I think she might have got it. So she's she's taken it into her little cave and probably back up to her favourite spot. So she does like to sit in the corner there behind those white rocks. So she'll probably grab onto it and just carry on munching away. But like Charlie said, it's really important for us to give them lots of different things to do throughout the day as well, some different toys and things to play with, because just like children, they just need to have lots of things to do to keep their minds active so they don't get too bored. So one thing you might have noticed in the time that she's been feeding is actually that her appearance has changed a little bit, and we'll hopefully see that again a bit later on with our other octopuses as well. But one of the reasons it's quite hard to spot Noodles in this tank sometimes is because she can camouflage herself really, really well. So they can do that by changing their colour and also changing the texture of their skin. So they can make their skin look the same colour as a rock, but they can also make it look just as bumpy or just as smooth to really kind of hide themselves. But they also change their colour to communicate. So that's why she's been changing colour while she's been kind of out and about, coming towards Charlie and coming towards the food. So when they're really pale, it means they're nice and relaxed, nice and chilled, maybe sleeping. They tend to get kind of darker and more vibrant reds and oranges when they're excited. So when she came towards the tub, her colour changed quite a lot because she was really excited, really feeling very playful. And now that she's happily eating, she's gone quite chilled again. She's gone nice and pale, nice and relaxed. So it's really, really useful for us actually, because it means that we can get to know her, get to know what she likes, what she doesn't like, and really just kind of work out how happy she is, and if she's enjoying the enrichment that we're giving her, which I think she has enjoyed it today, and I think she will carry on sitting there eating her food, probably in peace. She probably is looking at us like, why are you watching me eat my lunch? So how long have we had our octopuses? So we're going to see 3 different octopuses today. Noodles here, she's actually quite young. So we've only had her since the start of the year. Oh, look at those arms stretching out. So we've only had her since the start of the year. So she is quite young, which is why she's so small. So she is a slightly smaller species anyway. So as a common octopus, her mantle, so that kind of big bulb shaped bit where her eyes are, the thing that we kind of think of as being their head, that can grow to be about 25 centimetres, so about the length of a ruler, and their arms can actually grow to be about 1 metre long. So overall they can be about 1.25 metres in size. So she has got a lot of growing to do, but as I said, she is still quite young, so we've only had her for a few months. Our other octopuses, the one that we're about to see in a minute, Inky, that's also fairly young, and Neptune, look at her just poking that little fish out as she's trying to eat it. Neptune, our giant Pacific octopus, who we'll see a little bit later on, we've had for a couple of years, so she's a fully grown adult, so much bigger than little Noodles here, who is currently playing with her food. So their mouth is right in the middle, so if you imagine that your hand is an octopus, and your fingers are their arms, right in the middle where your palm is, that's roughly where their mouth is. So it's right up in the middle there. So they use those suckers to grab onto their food, and pull it in and push it into where their mouth is, right in the centre there. But sometimes, just like Inky's, Noodles is doing, sorry, they do like to play with their food a little bit, and they like to kind of they get more taste the more they kind of rub it over those suckers there. They can enjoy it a little bit more. So you might have noticed that Noodles has actually picked up a rock, and she's put a rock just in front of her there. So octopuses, they're actually really territorial, and they normally live in little caves. So that's why she likes to wedge herself in the back of this rock here in this corner. She likes to be able to feel the rocks around her side, so it helps her feel nice and secure. They don't really like coming into contact with other octopuses and of course predators, so sometimes, particularly when they're distracted, like when they're eating for example, to make themselves feel a little bit safer, they'll grab onto rocks and kind of barricade themselves in, make themselves a little fortress, so they feel nice and safe, and they know that they're going to be kind of harder to spot but also harder to get to by anything that they don't want to come into contact with. So one thing that we get asked a lot here actually is to do with the size of the exhibits that our octopuses are in, and it's kind of to do with what I just explained really. So they do like to live in caves, they like to feel the protection of having their own little space, but they do need to be able to stretch out. So all of our octopuses, they are all able to stretch fully out in their tanks, but they don't really like to be in any space that's much bigger than that because it just feels less safe for them. So they like to be somewhere where they feel nice and enclosed, but they've also got a little bit of a viewpoint so they can see the area around them. So where Noodles likes to sit, she can see the rest of the tank. She can also see part of the corridor, so she can see all of our lovely visitors, obviously when we're open. Today she's just got a lovely view of us. So they like to be able to sit there so they know that there aren't any other octopuses around, and there aren't any predators, but if there are, they can quickly kind of retract and hide themselves back in that little cave that they've created. So I think we'll leave Noodles to enjoy the rest of her lunch in peace. So we'll just give Noodles a little wave. Oh, she's so cute. She's just barricaded herself in there. So we'll just head on round and we'll just say goodbye to Charlie. Thanks again, Charlie.
That's all right.
As we hop on round, and we're going to go find Inky, who's our curled octopus. So do feel free to ask questions throughout the video, and we'll do our best to try and answer as many of them as possible. So for anyone who's visited us before, Noodles lives in the first part of the aquarium in our Plymouth Sound exhibit. And as we come around the corner, you can just see on the side here, this really, really big tank. This is our Eddystone Reef exhibit. So all of the animals in here are ones that we find right here in the UK, including these models that are hanging up on the ceiling. So we've got a leatherback turtle there, humpback whales, orcas over there. So we actually do get all of these animals visiting us at different times throughout the year for different reasons, mainly to find food, and particularly in the summer, a lot of them come and visit us. And we get so many different marine animals because we have something that kind of grows all around the UK called seagrass. Now, seagrass is a really important habitat, not just for these guys, but actually for a relative of the octopus as well. So octopuses are cephalopods or cephalopods, which means they're really closely related to squid and the nautilus and cuttlefish as well. And when cuttlefish lay their eggs, they actually lay them on strands of seagrass. So seagrass is really, really important for them because without the seagrass, they can't really lay their eggs anywhere and they're not going to be very well protected. So one thing we can all do to help seagrass is to just keep the water really nice and clean. So seagrass is a plant, which means it needs sunlight to be able to grow. So we need nice clear water. So if you're ever out and about by the sea or any body of water, just pick up any rubbish that you find and it will really help those lovely little cuttlefish. So we are now coming up to Inky. This is not Inky, of course, this is Ian. Ian is one of our biologists. You might recognise Ian if you watched our shark feed. He was feeding our sand tiger sharks. And he's about to feed Inky, our little curled octopus. So Inky lives in here, in this lovely tank here. I'm not sure where she is at the moment.
She's just up at the back left corner. She's quite active at the minute, so she's getting around.
Exciting. So Ian, do you want to just show us what food we've got for Inky today?
Yeah, so she's going to be getting a prawn today. I mean, she eats quite a variety of different foods. She really likes crabs. But today's a prawn. Sometimes she gets cockles as well. They're quite good. They're quite tactile because she gets to open them up. I'm going to just feed her directly just now, but sometimes we'll put the food in some kind of container or something that she has to open up. She's quite shy, so I'll go in quite gently and place the food down at the bottom there, and hopefully she'll come down. You get a good look.
Cool, thank you, Ian. So we'll just come around here, see if you can spot her. So as she's an octopus, as I mentioned earlier with Noodles, she can change her colour and her texture. So she can basically make herself very well camouflaged and blended in. I actually can't see her at the moment. Maybe I'm just not. Oh, I see her. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so there she is. So she is being really active. So her favourite hiding spot in this tank is this little cave that's just in the back corner there, just by that seagrass there. So she normally likes to live in there, but it looks like today she's feeling a bit more active. So you can see her again, how she moves around. So their arms are so flexible because octopuses, they don't have any bones, so they've got no bones at all. And actually the only hard part inside their body is their beak. So right inside their mouth, they've got a little beak. Looks just like a bird's beak. Its kind of structure is very similar. It's made of the same sort of stuff. So it's made of keratin. Oh, look at her grab onto the food. That's amazing. So it's made of the same stuff as our fingernails, actually, their beak. So it's just inside their mouth. So that's what they can use. Ian mentioned that sometimes they eat crabs. So they can use that beak to pierce through the shell of the crab. And then sometimes they even inject a little venom into the crab or whatever animal it is to just make it kind of stop moving, essentially. So it's a bit easier for them to grab on and eat it. So because they're so squishy, they're really good at escaping. They're really good at fitting in any gap. So because the only hard part is their beak, basically any gap that's a little bit bigger than their beak, they can squeeze their bodies through. So there are lots of really cool videos online actually of octopuses that have been pulled up onto boats accidentally, and they kind of squeeze themselves back into the water through little cracks in the side of the boat. And it's also one of the reasons why our octopuses here, on the top of their tanks, we've got lots of weights and things on their lids so that they can't squeeze themselves through any gaps. So you can see as well with her colour has also changed a little bit. So she's got those really deep red colours, which means she's very excited. She's enjoying lunchtime today. So their colour change is really, really quick. So it's works in the same way as how we contract our muscles. So it's controlled by electrical impulses, which is the same way we move our muscles, which is why their colour change is so instant and it can be so quick and dramatic, which is really useful for them, particularly if a predator comes along and they want to quickly try and hide from it. Oh, someone has just asked, how many species of octopus are there? That's a fantastic question. There are actually about 300 species of octopus, believe it or not. There are lots and lots and lots all over the world. So Noodles that we met earlier, she was a common octopus. They can be found all over the world. Inky here, our curled octopus. They're a really common species around the UK and around Europe. But there are many more species and lots of species that we don't get around here and that like to live in other parts of the world, like Neptune, who we're going to meet in a few minutes. So if you would like to donate to help us carry on taking care of these animals, then we would really appreciate it, no matter how small. Every penny really does help. Because we are a charity, so we really appreciate all of the money that you guys have donated so far, and if you would like to donate, then the link is in the comment section or just in the little description of the video. So I think we'll leave Inky to carry on enjoying her lunch. So we're going to head around the corner again now, and we are going to go into our Biozone exhibit. So for anyone that's been here, that's where we keep all of the really colourful tropical fish, but it's also where we keep Neptune, who's probably a bit biased, probably my favourite octopus that we've got here. She's really cool, and hopefully she's feeling a bit playful and hungry today as well. And so we'll just keep going round. So we are going to go past our Eddystone Reef exhibit again, so where all of our lovely local species live. So if you would like to watch these guys getting fed, we are going to be doing a live feed again next week on Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, and that's when these guys are going to be getting fed as well. So don't forget to tune into that one, and you can learn a little bit more about the animals that we get right here in the UK, because we get some pretty cool ones and lots of cool shark species as well that we get around here. So Neptune lives just around this corner here. So this lovely exhibit just in front of us. And I'm very honoured today because I'm going to be feeding Neptune. So you're going to get a really nice close look at what it's like really up the top there. But before we do, I just want to go back to what I mentioned a minute ago about them being really good escape artists. So because they're really clever, they're really strong and they're really squishy, they can fit through lots of gaps. We have to put lots of precautions in place to make sure that they don't escape during the night and cause chaos around the building. So we've got a lock on this wooden panel just up here, and then we've got some other little bits here that lock as well, so that she can't get a little bit too excited and go and say hello to the fish while we are here. So we're just going to climb up and we'll just say hello to her first. So I'm just going to climb up on this side. So Neptune is just here. So Neptune is fully grown, she's an adult, so she's about 3.5 years old, and you can tell straight away just the size difference between her and our other octopuses. So she's a giant Pacific octopus, which is the largest type of octopus. They can reach about 3 meters. I think the biggest octopus, the biggest giant Pacific ever recorded, weighed about 70 kilograms, which I think is about 150 pounds, so very, very heavy. So she's pretty big, she's about 2.5 meters, and because she's an adult, she is really likes to engage a lot with her enrichment program, so we can try lots of different things with her. And just like with Noodles at the beginning, a really important part is sensory enrichment. So just letting her taste us, giving her something different to feel, something different to taste, and you can see how she really does just kind of stick on with those suckers there. They're really strong. So I'm just going to give her a little tickle, give her a little bit of a play. So while I'm doing this, I just want to ask you guys a question. Does anyone know how many hearts an octopus has? If you think you know, feel free to pop it in the comments, and we'll see if anyone can guess the correct answer. So how many hearts do you think she has? So she's just doing something quite fun at the moment. So she keeps squirting water. So on the side of her head, she's got 2 siphons. So 2 siphons, they look like 2 little tubes. And basically there's one just down there, you can see between her arms. It's a little bit difficult to see from up here. But those siphons, next to those are where their gills are. So they use their siphons for lots of different things. Oh, we've got some really good guesses coming in for the hearts. So they use their siphons, keep the guesses coming, and we use their siphons for lots of different things. One of them is to help pump pump water past the gills to get oxygen into their blood. But they can also use it to squirt water at us when they're feeling a little bit playful. So that's what she was just doing. So back to the hearts, we've had some really good guesses. We've had lots and lots of people getting it right. Well done to Emma and Ollie and Sophie. Oh, she's getting very excited now. They do have 3 hearts. If you guessed 3, that's absolutely amazing. You are absolutely right. They have got 3 hearts. So they've got one kind of main heart, which works a bit like ours. So they use that to pump blood around their body to supply oxygen to all their organs. But they also have 2 little hearts next to their siphons. So they've got one siphon either side of their head. That's kind of near where their gills are, and next to each set of gills they've got another little heart, so they can get oxygen directly into their blood. Look at her just hanging on to my finger. So next question for you, what about brains? How many brains do you think, or brain-like things do you think an octopus has? So have a little think, see if you can guess how many brains, and I'll just carry on giving her a little bit of a tickle. She seems to be really enjoying it today. All of that squirting of the water means that she's feeling quite playful. The water in this tank is really cold though, it's only about 8 degrees. So octopuses in general, we do find them fairly shallow in water. So the other 2 species that we saw, so Noodles, the common octopus, and Inky, the curled octopus, you generally find them less than about 200 meters deep. Sounds quite deep to us, but compared to how deep the ocean can get, it's actually quite shallow. Now Neptune, the giant Pacific octopus, they're still found relatively shallow, but it can be a little bit deeper. So they can be found down to a couple of 1,000 meters. So slightly deeper where the water is just a little bit colder down there. So, some really good guesses coming in for the brains there, quite a variety of guesses. It's quite difficult on this because it's very unusual. So they actually have 9 brains. So I see a few people, Harry aged 5 guessing 9, that's amazing. A few people did guess 9, so you're correct. They've got 9, how crazy is that? So they've got one sort of main brain that they use just as you'd imagine, basically, to kind of do their decision making, decide what they're going to do, carry out all of those different tasks, control their arms and their organs and that kind of thing. But then they have a little kind of mini brain at the base of each of their arms. So that means they've got 8 of those little mini brains down there. So it's a little cluster of special nerve cells, and because they've got those, it means that their arms can all work independently of each other. So their arms can kind of be doing their own thing, while their kind of main brain is focusing on whatever it is, maybe looking out for a predator or trying to find food, that kind of thing. So on the subject of food, I think it's time we gave her her lunch. I think we'll give her her food. So it's just down here. Just gonna grab it. So it is Easter coming up, so she's got a little Easter egg. So this egg, it opens up just like this. So her food is just inside there. So she's got a little, she's got 2 prawns today. So what I'm gonna do is just get a little bit of water in the tub and let the smell of the prawns kind of go in the water as well. So a little bit of water in. The water also helps the tub to not just float on top of the water. So do the thing back up. There we go. And we'll see if she wants it. See if she's hungry. Sometimes she gets a bit distracted by us being here and playing with her. So she's a little bit less interested in her food. So we'll just see how she's feeling about it today. But you can see all of these suckers here that she can use to grab on to that food. And those kind of medium-sized suckers, kind of the size of a bit bigger than your thumbnail, for a giant Pacific octopus, each one of those can lift about a kilogram in weight. So it does make them really, really strong. So they are able to lift lots and lots of things. Let's see if she wants to grab onto it. So I keep talking about her having arms and octopus arms rather than tentacles. So there's actually a difference between an arm and a tentacle. So octopuses have 8 arms but no tentacles. So tentacles, they look a little bit different and they act a bit different than arms. So arms have suckers, so all of these suckers along here, either 1 or 2 rows normally. But a tentacle doesn't have any suckers along the main part of it. It sometimes has some suckers just on the tip there. So a cuttlefish has 8 arms and 2 tentacles. It has 2 tentacles that it can kind of hide away, and then when it comes across food, it can shoot those tentacles out to grab onto their food. So an octopus has 8 arms, but no tentacles. So a couple of people have asked how long octopuses live for. That's a really good question. And I think we'd kind of imagine that they live for quite a while, being that they can get so big and so intelligent. But actually, they only live for a couple of years. So giant Pacific octopuses, like Neptune here, they are slightly longer lived, but still only for around 4 or 5 years. The smaller species that we saw earlier, they tend to only live for 2 or 3 years, which is pretty remarkable when you think about how intelligent they are. So it's kind of believed that an octopus is about as clever as a 4-year-old human child. So they can reach the same intelligence as a person, but they get there faster, basically, which is pretty cool. Oh, so somebody has asked, Nate has asked, can an octopus breathe out of water? That's a really good question. You might have seen videos of some octopuses that are actually live in rock pools, so they're kind of tidal. So what those guys do is they can actually climb out of the water, climb across the rocks and into the next rock pool. And the reason they can do that is because as well as breathing through their gills, octopuses can actually breathe a little bit through their skin. So oxygen from the water that's on their skin, it can pass through their skin and into their blood. Look how sticky her arm is. So they can pass from the skin through into their blood. So it means that octopuses can, only normally for a few minutes, but they can breathe out of water. So it's not something they rely on. And obviously you should never take an octopus out of water on purpose, but they are able to breathe out of water if they need to. For example, if they're going to kind of go and investigate the next rock pool over, and look for some more food, or maybe escape from a predator, that kind of thing. These are really, really good questions that you guys have got. Does anybody know what colour an octopus's blood is? Any guesses on the colour? So obviously we have red blood. So what about an octopus? They are a bit alien-like, I always think, with all of those hearts and all of those brains. But what colour do you think their blood is? She's very playful. I'm getting a little bit splashed over here. So she's still thinking about that egg. She's still got it down here, deciding whether she's going to put the effort in to open it up or not. We know she can do it. She's done it before. And we do like to mix her toys up though, so that she doesn't remember. Oh, Ethan has got the correct answer. Ethan says blue blood. Fantastic, Ethan. You are correct. Their blood is blue. Sometimes we often think that their blood might be black, but actually that black liquid, she's really grabbing onto the food now, that black liquid is ink. So they've got some ink sacs, and when they feel a bit threatened, they can shoot ink out of those siphons, basically to either stop a predator from being able to see them, or to confuse a predator. So she's just engulfed that egg, so she's going to be pulling it apart with those suckers now, and hopefully getting the food out. So with that ink, they can shoot it out in a bit of a ball, and it makes their predator think that that ball of ink is the octopus. So it distracts them for long enough for the octopus to escape. So that ball of ink is called a pseudomorph, and the ink is black. So anyone that guessed black, totally get why you guessed it. It's a little bit confusing, but it's actually their ink that's black, and their blood is blue. So the reason their blood is blue is because it's got something slightly different in it. So our blood has iron in it. It has something called hemoglobin, and that basically has iron in it that grabs onto the oxygen from the air and it passes it around the body. Now an octopus and other marine animals as well, like a horseshoe crab, their blood is blue because instead of having iron, they've got copper. So they've got copper in something called hemocyanin. So that copper does the same thing that the iron does. It grabs onto the oxygen and it passes it around the body to help them have enough oxygen to survive and move and do all of these wonderful things like she's doing right now. And the reason they have copper is because where they live, there isn't always quite as much oxygen in the water. And iron isn't very good at getting oxygen when there's not a lot of oxygen around. So they have copper instead because it means it's much easier for them to get oxygen even when there isn't as much of it around. So that's why their blood is blue. So it's really good for them that they've got this copper. It means that they can survive in the kind of colder waters and occasionally slightly deeper down. But there's a little disadvantage to having that copper in their blood. And it's to do with when the water changes. So you've probably all heard of climate change, that it can change the temperature of the water, but it can actually change how acidic the water is as well. So whether it's kind of closer to an acid than an alkali. So how acidic is the water? Now, when they have got copper in their blood, they're a bit more sensitive to that change. So it's a little bit harder for them when the water becomes more acidic. And it's because they've got that copper, it stops the copper from being able to do its job properly. So they can't get as much oxygen when the water is acidic because the copper stops being able to work properly. But there's lots and lots of things that we can do to make sure that the octopuses out in the ocean don't have to worry about that. So really simple things like just switching off the lights when you leave the room, walking or getting the bus instead of driving your car, all of those little things, and they all add up, and they'll really help us to make sure that these guys don't have to worry so much about any possible effects of climate change. So all of those little things that you can do in your daily lives, whatever decisions you're making at home, remember to think ocean, think about these guys, think about what you can do to help them. They're all really simple things, but there are over 1,000 people watching at the moment, so if every single one of us just did one little thing, that would all add up and make a really big difference for animals like Neptune and Noodles and Inky that we've seen. I think Neptune is getting a little bit too distracted by us now to try and eat her lunch, so we might just leave her to eat her lunch in peace. But thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you for all of your donations that you've already very kindly given us. I just want to kind of shout out to our lovely volunteers as well, who normally give our octopus talks when we're open, and I know are missing our octopuses, and they're missing you guys too. So thank you guys as well for your continued support, and just thank you to everyone for tuning in and wanting to learn more and carry on supporting us. So we really do appreciate it. Again, if you do want to donate, the link is there in the description, but thank you for your support already. Hope you guys stay safe, stay at home, and we can't wait to see you guys again soon.